Welcome. You're watching YanaTV. Have you ever wondered what it means in the presence of people with military background, law enforcement, or the world of security? Do you know how it feels when you have to do tremendous sacrifices to protect those you love and care the most about? And then after this, you go back in this world, the mundane world, the world of business, family, and community, and how do you integrate and make a difference? And all of that you're going to find out today from our guest, Dion Jensen. Dion, yes, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
And just a few words about Dion. He has over 20 years of experience in team-focused challenging environments, which are military, law enforcement, and security roles. He's also the international ambassador for two charities, Pencils Community and Project Lionhearts. Dion also international speaker, published author, and a thought leader. Thank you for being here.
Well, it's a huge honour to be here, considering who's
sat in this chair.
I'm a little bit overwhelmed because I've seen all your episodes and I know the people have sat in this chair and obviously one of them is very important to me.
Do you want to share a few words about that? Did you mention it already?
Sure. I'm trying to look very professional, right? I'm trying to look very professional here. And inside, I'm like a little schoolboy, like so excited. Who has sat in this chair? And one of those people that sat in this chair was a gentleman called Vikas Malkani, who's the wisdom guru. And he was the first one to understand me and my story, the whole military dark side, and then gently sit me down. And by gently, I mean he made me cry. And said, you need to reshape your message because it's scaring people. And you need to refocus in this particular direction, which led me to you. And he sat in this chair, so I am humbled to be here.
Thank you, Dion. It's like a perfect synchronicity. And you can be scary. I have seen you on stage, okay? I have seen you in action. And you have this energy when you bring out the beast. Yeah. You know, it could be very scary for other people because they don't know how to react around you. On the other hand, it's also a tremendous gift that you have. The power to transform, to influence, to heal, to elevate others. So today, I would like you to share, well, let's start with your message. Sure. What it is that you want the world to know.
The main message is any of the hard stuff in life, no matter how bad it is, trauma, depression, suicide, rape, sexual assault, sexual abuse, the worst things that human beings can do to each other, there is a way out of that. I call that the shitstorm, and if you stay in there for too long, you will end up in the hole. And when you're in the hole, and for anyone that's there now or has been there before, you know what it feels like. And you will get to a point where you will decide, if you're not careful, that it's better off that you're not here. That is a lie. And if you understand what I'm about to share with you today, you still have a tremendous amount of value in this world because of all that pain you've been through. That is the key to help someone else.
Here we always like to add a personal angle to everything that our guests share. So just a little bit about your own journey that led you to be in this chair literally today. Do you like to share with us?
Okay, so my grandfather was in the army, my father was in the army. I had the choice to play professional basketball or join the army, so I joined the army. I grew up, born and raised in an army family around army people, and there was such a tight family focus within the military. So I went through the army. I did a 6-month operational tour of Bosnia in 94-95 in a peacekeeping role. And then I left the military, went into the police force for 7 years. And that's where I saw firsthand the real psychological, emotional implications of the bad things that people do to each other. And then I figured out why people did these things, why people reacted and hurt other people and used fear to dominate. Dealing with gang members all the time, and I really enjoy fighting with gang members because their main power is fear. Or the military, where fear is fuel. It's actually an advantage. We're trained to use fear either as fuel or ignore it completely and go into a certain mode. And that's training. And that becomes very important when we talk about some of the things we'll talk about later when psychologists put labels on us. Labels that don't fit.
Let's talk about it now.
Right,
just say the word. What is the label?
Post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. All right. So what happens is you think, feel, or behave in a manner that doesn't fit the environment. Okay, and so the psychological issues that we talk about is hyperarousal. You're always on edge the whole time. Hypervigilance, looking for all of those threats and reacting to everything. All right. So when you're hypervigilant, looking for all these threats, and you're hyperaroused, as soon as someone touches you or wakes you up when you're asleep, it gives you a fight. You're reacting with violence because that's how you were trained to react. Because when you're in battle or someone's trying to kill you or the people you're trying to protect, it happens fast and it's loud. So anything loud and fast is going to enact an instant response because you were trained that way. It's not because you're a psychopath, there's something wrong with you, is you were trained to react that way. Right? The other thing is the nightmares and remembering all the bad things that happen. It keeps coming, keeps coming, keeps coming. And then the worst one is you start feeling worse about yourself, start slipping down to depression, you become numb. That's all the psych babble that I didn't understand. So I wrote the book and I put it in our language.
He wrote the book. He's not kidding. He wrote the book.
The book.
It's the book. The Good News About PTSD. You want to read it, guys? Yes.
And the title itself threw everyone. Because anything to do with post-traumatic stress disorder is all bad. You Google anything to do with PTSD, well, you might find my book now. If you Google anything to do with PTSD, it's all bad. It's all about the psychological condition.
That's why this is the good news.
Correct. Because the good news is the reason why you're reacting this way is because you were trained to react this way, right? That's the first part of the good news. The second part of the good news is even the nightmares, even the flashbacks, even all that horrible stuff that you're experiencing is actually your subconscious still trying to win. So what I say is the worse your signs and symptoms are, the stronger that warrior heart is still trying to win this battle. You're not alone, you're not crazy, you can beat it. There's nothing wrong with you. All right, you are doing the best that you know how to do. And I know if you're dealing with this right now, you can feel that building right now while you're looking me in the eye right now. You can feel that building and you'll spark up about it. And something's going to get really uncomfortable because that's that warrior spirit wanting to come back out. But for the psychological speak and all of these labels, it's diminishing people, making us feel weak and like victims. We're not. We're flipping warriors trained to win. So that was the other part of the good news. The worst this seems to be, this filter that everyone's telling that it's bad news, it's not. It's your subconscious still trying to fight. If not, you wouldn't be here. You're still here listening now. Something in you still wants to win, still wants to fight. Nothing wrong with fighting if it's for the right reason.
What is your reason now? What are you fighting?
Fighting for all of those people that are stuck in the hole. And more than that now, I have a solution that helps everyone in the hole. Not even going to argue the point clinically until saving lives, that whole side of things. If you want to find a reason to make this work, it works. What's happening now on top of that is this is just one example where someone else's ideas and influence and framework and filters is controlling how a certain demographic behaves. My demographic, initially, ex-veterans, law enforcement, security, are killing themselves. 22 a day in the US. We've lost more in Australia to suicide than we have to that. And in New Zealand, they don't even keep attempted suicide stats in the military. So that's all happening because they believe in this filter that is false. And we're one example. So now that I've changed that filter and that solution is done, I'm looking at all these other issues we're having, and I can apply the same technique no matter where I go. I'm running the same situation. In the workplace, in bullying, in dealing with trauma. I had a whole lot of women start coming to me about rape and sexual assault because they just saw the T in the PTSD.
The trauma.
The trauma. Because this is not just a military thing. It is a heart thing. It's a human being thing. And I have a solution to the heart side of trauma. And that's from the lowest scales of, not feeling good about yourself and self-esteem. And funnily enough, in this world, I'm known as the confidence coach. I raise self-esteem and confidence in an individual, in a team, and an organization. But again, I'm using that system in reverse because I've now got to go under a corporate label. I've got to go under leadership and management training, workplace bullying, mental health awareness. I have to use those languages and those labels to get in there. Once I'm in there, I'm just talking heart to heart with the system that I know is already saving lives.
Can you share a little bit about the system? I know they want to read the book probably and watch the other things, but just give us some idea of what it is.
My system or the one that's not working?
Your system, the one that helps to fix things.
Okay, right. Well, in order to do that, I need to tell you about the broken system.
Yes,
otherwise
tell me about the broken system first.
I'm not just self-promoting the fact that I've got a system that works. It's because you put that up against a broken system where people are killing themselves every day, it works. Okay.
Let's talk about broken system
So broken system first. People within that system are doing their best. It's not the people. It's the system. All right. So the system is if you manifest these behaviors, and it matches this definition in a psychological journal of some disorder.
And again, and we are calling, like, again, the PTSD to make sure we're clear about the language, right?
Yes, exactly right. So if it matches that, you get labeled PTSD. Let's give you a live example, all right? I'm in northern Iraq. I'm protecting a person. The rest of the team is sick, so they got food poisoning. I'm sleeping with a pistol on my chest, and I have the client in the next room, and I'm dozing. 3 o'clock in the morning, from being asleep to instantly awake, 6 guys come through the door, and I'm straight up, pistol straight up the front, deal with those guys without having to shoot any of them, from being asleep to instantly awake. Now, that client will never forget that, because 6 people came into the room for him, and I stopped them from being asleep. My conscious mind is not even in play here, and I've come straight out and run the correct drill. Not justified in shooting, but did enough to get rid of them and neutralize that threat without having to hurt anyone instantly. No conscious thought. That is training. All right?
That sounds exciting. Not that I want to neutralize anyone, but it sounds exciting.
Yeah, and look, and we think about what's at stake there. Lives are on the line with what we do. Right? This is not KPIs we're talking about. We're talking about people's lives, where every decision you make, someone's going to live or die. Those are the stakes, and these are the same stakes here. However, that behavior and that environment, you go, wow, that's really exciting, that's really cool, you've done your job, well done. But I take that same mindset home, and I'm shopping at a local supermarket. I come around the corner, someone's not watching where they're going, and he's just about to hit me with the trolley. I move out of the way, and I knock this guy out and carry on shopping. Instantly. All right, so now there's a guy unconscious in the supermarket. I've technically committed assault. Because it's involved violence, and I've been working in Iraq, then again, I fit the label, PTSD. But I've just told you, I've come from an environment with no conscious thought, and it was exciting, it was the absolute right decision. This decision here, absolutely wrong decision, of course, but my subconscious has done nothing wrong. It's done the exact same thing. It's run the exact same process. It's running a drill that was trained. So how can that be a disorder? Can't be a disorder. It's habit. You've trained yourself to do it. So then I understood that training was the issue, but the language confused everyone. So what I did in the book was I created characters. I'm going to steal this for a second.
Yes, please.
So if you had seen me in the supermarket, knock this guy out, then you find out about my background. I'll show you some sort of violence, and then you're going to think I'm this. All right? So when I connected with Yana, she started talking about the beast.
Yes.
All right? And we've all got different names for it, but I was a werewolf. Right? So as soon as you get a full moon, you get a werewolf. But that's a trigger I have no control over. It's the flipping moon. Right? When it comes out, this is what happens because of that training. So the system that works for me is firstly understanding that you don't have a psychological disorder. You're not broken. There's nothing wrong with you.
Okay, so number one, nothing is wrong with you.
There's nothing wrong with you. Right? You are running the drills that you were trained to run. You are running a pattern. You can disappear into Tony Robbins' model. You can disappear into John C. Maxwell's model and leadership.
Or Dion Jensen model.
Yeah, or my model. Okay, Tony Robbins, John C. Maxwell, Dion Jensen, same sentence. Let's just get that in there. Different reasons why I like and dislike both of them, all right? So I'm not promoting both of those guys, but I love some things that they do and some things I don't. But in that model, the solution was the training in the right language. So there's nothing wrong with you. Secondly, this is how you've been trained and conditioned. Because the conditioning we undergo in the military is very specific. They put you in a state where you can activate controlled aggression at any time to deal with fear, to deal with pain, to deal with everything else. So in that toolbox, it's going forward. Because it's not natural to want to hurt another human being. It's not natural to run into danger. We're programmed to run away. So we've already switched the programming to run into danger. All right? So you're not only not crazy, it's training. Here's the other thing. We spend a lot of time training to go into battle. There is no training to come back within our own system. So if you show any of these behaviors, you come out of this whole system, this whole military system you were trained in, and they go into the civilian world and go through their system to unlearn this stuff. Just no way. It's like learning something in Japanese and then getting sent to China and try and have Japanese unprogrammed in a Chinese system. That's how different the systems are. So no one's going to understand the psychological language if they have been trained with the military side. Does that make sense?
Yes, right. Totally. Yes.
So all I did with my system was take the key components of how we were trained, and I didn't unlearn them. Because you can't unlearn something. You've got to substitute with something else. But in the military, we can go from peacetime, walking around camp unarmed. We can deploy to peacekeeping, where we're not going to have a round up the spout or a bullet ready to shoot, unless it's authorized, because there are rules of engagement everywhere we go. But in the military system, we can scale up. We can go from here. We can go to aid relief. We can go to humanitarian. We can go to peacemaker. We can go into full battle and attack and kill people and run up and down the scale. Here in this military world, this police world, this emergency services world, there's no issues when you're in it. PTSD doesn't exist in the middle of battle. It doesn't exist when someone's bleeding out and an ambulance officer is there patching up. In that moment of doing your job, it doesn't exist. It's when you come out, because you're out of that system. Now, all I did was change the rules of engagement within the same system, within the same language, but with acceptable psych principles. But I didn't know they were accepted psych principles. So any psychologists out there, the first psychologist that read my book, who clinically endorsed it, said, Dion, this is amazing. You've taken Carl Jung's archetypes, you've externalized and normalized subconscious behavior, you've used some cognitive behavior therapy, you've used some narrative therapy, you've created your own warrior archetypes, and you've sort of put that all together in your own sort of process. And I looked at them and went, it's like, look, I had no idea what they were talking about. Didn't understand any of the words, but my whole system matched acceptable psych principles. So now I'm training psychologists. I'm training psychs and counselors to speak the language. They're already smart enough to run their process in their own head. But if I walk in and I speak to you and you're a psychologist and you go, okay, Dion, we're going to fill out a DAS-21 or a DAS-42 form and we're going to do a check sheet to show what's going on here. And we're going to map out your treatment path, because it's got to be called a treatment path because there's something wrong with you. And then we're going to do this, this, and this. We'll talk about hyperarousal, hypervigilance, and all these other models. I'm not understanding it. I'm just not going to get it. Now, when they walk in there, first thing that happens is they've read the book. The psychologist counselors read the book. They understand the language and the characters. So what are we dealing with, Yana? Oh, I'm a paranoid assassin. Great. So trust is an issue, and you're pulling away from people. And then when someone tries to get close to you that you don't like, it's like a magnet on opposite polarities. So that would be your psychological bodyguard if you're manifesting trust issues, all right? And you're super smart and you know how to change your face and your dress and everything else to suit. So if you were to slip down onto the dark side, your character would be a paranoid assassin.
My character would be, it's nice to know.
There you go.
And now I figured out, my shadow, a paranoid assassin. Tell me more about that.
All right, so in your shadow state of paranoid assassin on the bad side is because the paranoid assassin in its hero form. So I created heroes and villains. The hero is there to protect you, right? But with acceptable thoughts, feelings, and behaviors in this world. Your shadow self, the paranoid assassin, that everyone thinks is bad, is still trying to protect you. But there are no rules and no filters now. It is survival mode, all right? So your paranoid assassin's hero name is actually the scout. Your skill has been able to look and see, all right? Which matches you, because you look and see and you see truth, right? Now, if anyone threatens you, you can revert, disappear. Okay? Your first reaction, if you're in that shadow state, for people I deal with, so when someone tries to get close, Yana, I want to talk to you, I want to book an appointment, I want to pop smoke, disappear.
I do that, and people know. It's really hard to get in touch with me.
I'm just guessing. I save lives, I write this book, I sort of just guessing.
That was good.
Because this system works for everyone, because we have the same characters in all our heads. We just call them different names. So one of my greatest accomplishments in this book that I'm so proud of is I'm not telling you to take on my characters. I'm not telling you have to do this. I'm saying this system will work for you if you take yourself through it. So in there, I will give you the characteristics of the heroes and the villains. You describe them. You name them. And then they're yours to take through the book because it's you. And this is one of the greatest feedback I've ever had because it came from a child. All right? So I had an army padre, a chaplain, who was going to read the book to see if there's anything he could use to help people with this. He didn't think he had PTSD, right? He gets onto about the 8th page, the picture of the werewolf and the explanation. He goes, oh, that's me. He sat down with his family. His youngest son is 10. And he explained what all my characters were, and they went through the exercise as a family, around the dinner table in the safety of their own home, the privacy of their own minds, and said, look, I know I struggle with anger, and Dion's character is called a werewolf. What would you describe me as? And his 10-year-old son says, Dad, you're not a werewolf, because you look like everyone else. But when you get angry, you're like Wolverine, the claws come out, and it's scary. So the silver bullet for that, because when I deal with werewolves, I talk about moon states and silver bullets. And now we've got choppers in the background. This is just perfect, right? So I hear that, my whole heart rate pumps up, my body's flooding with adrenaline, and in my head I'm going back to the last time I heard Black Hawks in Iraq, and I'm in fight mode now, right?
I feel very safe next to that expansion.
But totally under control. You can feel that, right?
Yes, I like, that's a lot of energy here.
Yeah, so that's not a disorder. That's my body going, hey, that's choppers. Last time we heard choppers, we were in a situation where people could be trying to kill us, so keep on the lookout. Stop me flipping out and diving undercover and all the rest of it, which the shadow state could make me do if I don't have control of this. Bang, boom, and away I go. Yeah, exactly right. So if you do that with someone that has hyperarousal, they're going to flip into something straight up, right? Now that I've got that under control, I can take that energy and I can focus. And that's what we do in combat mode. When everything's kicking off, boom, you're focused, you're right in there. And that feeling now, people who listen to this actually sitting there going, I wish I was back in there. I really wish I was back in there. Because I had a tremendous amount of value there. So
how can they do this in the real world now?
Read the book.
Like, you know, like, but it's like, let's reshape it towards community, business, you know, like what,
right,
and also your mission, right? Like, I know with all this background that you have, right, and the book you've written, where are you going to right now? What are you doing? What are you trying to achieve?
I'm going to go into the workplace where people spend 70% of their life, 70% of their time on this planet in that workplace. That is shaping people's minds and hearts at the moment. I'm going to go in there, I'm going to dominate that workplace with the right way to do things. The label that we're going in under now is like workplace bullying. What I'm doing with Imagine Academy, we're going into the workplaces. I'm going into every influential industry and group spreading the right message. That people are more important than profit in the business world. And now you will know that behind all of that is this. Behind all of that is always going to be this. I'm the founder of Success for Soldiers and the author of the world's first Good News book about PTSD. That is my core identity. I save lives in the darkness, and I'm not scared to go in there. I like it in there. A lot of power in there. So I will go in there and I'll carry people out. However, those that are out, they're spending 70% of their time in that workplace. And now that I've been in the workplace, and I've managed regionally, I'm a specialist leader and manager of all those labels, but I'm now hearing the same language from the darkness in the workplace. I'm now seeing the same look in people's eyes. I'm seeing the same behavior at work. I'm seeing the same dominating, fear-driven form of control coming from media, coming from bosses everywhere. The darkness has just come straight across into our world now. And those of us that are from this protected background, we want to do something about it, but there's never been avenues that we can. We can't take up weapons and go and fight what we're fighting with guns. Right? The battle that I fight and I used to fight is now in the hearts and minds of people everywhere. So I'm going into the speaking groups, I'm going into the training groups, I'm going into the workplace, whatever role I'm in, I will make those places safe first. And then I'll form community around it. With the PTSD book, I created the PTSD Solutions community. A whole community of people that have their own solutions to PTSD. Psychs, counselors, equine therapy, art therapy, hypnotherapists, anyone that has any sort of model that has a solution. Because all the media is portraying is all awareness. There has not been one media outlet globally. I have taken this book and I have put it in the hands of Tony Robbins as I walked across the coals. It went nowhere. I have had ministers with this book. I have had so many influential people with this book in their hands. It has gone nowhere. It's been hidden. The people that are trying to help are trying to make it available. I'll put free videos everywhere.
You really have to read it, guys, now. You really have to. So we're making it crystal clear.
Yeah. And so that's getting suppressed because it's within that broken system. So there's no point playing with this broken system. We must create our own system outside of that, but within view of it. We don't attack that system because there's people inside there that still want to help. When we get to the point that someone sees this interview and goes, this guy's got a solution to stop 22 Americans killing themselves every day and we're not talking to him yet. What the hell is going on? Things will change. When the Australian government and the Australian Defence Force goes, this guy's got a solution, why aren't we looking at this? Then things will change. And I'm not the only one. I've formed a whole community of people's solutions. That's the military side. Out here in the corporate world now, as a speaker, I have a tremendous amount of influence with my networks. I managed to get myself on YanaTV.
You did.
Right, so
that's Takes some networking.
Yeah, it takes some networking, but it wasn't the networking.
It wasn't.
I am a soldier that was never promoted. I've been in the bottom of that hole, and no matter how worthless you feel right now, the real reason I'm sitting right here on YanaTV is quite simple. Yana's brother went through all of this, and when she heard about me, I know in the back of her head she's gone, if this guy can do half of what he says he can do, you already know people that can benefit from it. So
in the family, yes.
Yeah, and I won't go into, obviously, if you ever want to share what you shared with me later on in regards to that, you can't.
We are like running through an interview, yes, but you can't
exactly
hide
right.
this.
Yeah, I don't want you to talk about it on this one. But when people have been through this, they recognize it. And when you speak the language and you see the look in the eye, you can feel it. We have solutions. We're not waiting for people to come and find us. We're going out there and we're going to sort them out. We're going to sort out bullying. We're going to sort out suicide. We're going to sort out everything to do with trauma. The darkest issues that people are hiding, and all of you that are suffering in silence, we will be your voice. I will not stop. We're trained to win. We're going to win.
Dion, thank you so much. That was an incredibly awesome interview. Thank you. That was Dion Jensen with us today. I am probably speechless for the first time. It's all that I can say that stand up for yourself. And if you are someone who resonates with his message from that world, definitely reach out to Dion. And he has solutions. He has the mythology. He knows how you can transition from those very, I would almost say hostile environments towards peaceful communities and still be at service to people around you. So you become respected, successful, admired, you become a role model. Because this is what next generation wants. Our kids want us to be role models.
Yeah, and just, I'm real sorry to interrupt. Oh my God, I'm interrupting Yana on YanaTV, but you don't have to stop being a warrior to do that.
Very
this
important.
This is the biggest thing. You're not going to come out of those hostile environments as a warrior and come out here and be a puppy dog. We're lions. There are still jobs for lions out here in the civilian world. We can still be lions. Right? We don't have to stop and come out of here and stop being a warrior. We need more warriors. We have to fight for something greater than ourselves as part of a community now.
So find this community for you. Reach out. Connect with Dion. Connect with us. We are all here to help. Because together we can truly create a world that works for everyone. Thank you for watching.
Yana from YanaTV, where do you start with this lady? If you know who she is, there are no words. There is just energy. If you don't know who she is, I'm going to be the first person to label her correctly as a social journalist. Remember back in the media where journalists could be trusted? They're not trusted anymore. Remember back when a certain TV station had all the credibility? There are none now. So what we have now is social journalists that go out there and find the truth and report it. But they do so without an agenda. They report what's there. And this is what I'm really enjoying about YanaTV. The people that are coming on here aren't bound by any agenda. They're not bound by any other system or organization to come and shape your thoughts. What Yana does, she sees the heart of the matter and she brings in a unique perspective, but she's now front running the social journalist movement. We are at the front of so many social movements, and YanaTV is right at the forefront of internet TV, social journalism, and bringing through that next generation of truth telling. Oh, I love her too, man, because she's awesome.